which affects the babies from the age of 6 months, and they continue to get the blood transfusion for lifelong. And the ultimate fate, if they don't get enough blood or they are not able to remove out the iron from the body, this ultimate thing is to see the demise of your son, daughter, who has been very, very precious to you. So each one sitting in this room has got the responsibility of propagating of what we learned today. I want every one of you to have a Facebook featured today saying we want not only India to be thalassemia free, but world to be thalassemia free. Because that's our own mission. That's the motto of our own country, that every day we should think about how can we reduce the suffering of these thalassemia babies. What is thalassemia? All of us wants to know what is thalassemia. Dr. Vikas Dua is the clinical lead and has been able to establish the state-of-the-art thalassemia center here for bone marrow transplant. But before we move ahead, in next 15 minutes we'll discuss what thalassemia is. I can fall in love with anybody, isn't that? I don't ask whether you are thalassemic or not. I don't ask any religion. I don't ask any caste. I just fall in love. And that is what happens. People sitting in this room, they might never know that they are suffering from thalassemia trait. So every male has got XY chromosome, every female has got XX chromosome. So if one chromosome is not working properly, if one chromosome is bad, that is called trait. That is called trait. It means thalassemia trait, thalassemia carrier, thalassemia minor, all are one of the same things. And there is no stigma. You don't have horns to tell you that this guy has got thalassemia trait. Or you will not look beautiful if you have a thalassemia trait. You can look more beautiful. So can I tell people sitting in this room who are suffering from thalassemia trait? The answer to that is no. There is no way that I can know whether you are suffering from thalassemia trait or not. But what happens is, if you are a thalassemic trait, then your hemoglobin always remains between 9 to 11. That means you are anemic. And dear friends, my partners into this healthcare ventures, I would request that this message is not only for the rest of the world, for Iraq, for Middle East, for CIS countries, for Africa. This message is for our own people suffering in Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh. So I want you people to go back today and educate 10 people that what you have listened is a thalassemia trait, we need to do that. And thalassemia trait, so husband or a wife has got one chromosome wrong, that's thalassemia trait. Marries a normal person, nothing happens. Now a thalassemia trait marries a thalassemia trait. There's a 25% chance that both the bad chromosomes will come into the baby. And that is called thalassemia major. So thalassemia minor, which is very, very normal, to a thalassemia major, where you require the blood transfusion from the age of 6 months. So if I have to ask you that if I have to prick you every month, how will you feel? Now you have seen the suffering and pain so closely. If I have to tell you that every month, dear people, we have to prick you to give you blood transfusion. And the parents have to run pillar to post to get the blood. How will you feel? Can you feel the pain? All of us should feel the pain, because that is how we are going to bring the change. When people say we need to be practical, I say no, we need to be emotional. We need to be emotional because we need to see their crying parents. We need to see tears into their eyes. We should move us in saying that we have to work beyond it. We need to be emotional about these kids who have had a bright future. If somebody would have told their parents that please check your thalassemia status. In many countries, you have a horoscope. You make that meet. But I would say, please make the genetic card or genetic report card which needs to be matched. It can be sickle cell, it could be thalassemia, it could be sickle or thalassemia. These babies deserve a future free of thalassemia. These babies deserve sickle cell free future so that they can contribute to the maximum of their potential in nation building. Any nation, any society. Why should they be left behind? So the baby gets born. So what needs to be done first? That after marriage and before pregnancy, everybody needs to be screened for thalassemia. Many of you will be unmarried, will be planning the marriage. I would request you all young people to get yourself screened. And even if your husband and wife, both your partners are thalassemia trait, nothing to worry. You can still fall in love. And that's what I started. You can fall in love with anybody. Love has got no boundaries. It does not see medical condition. It just sees a pure love in your eyes, in your heart. So when the baby comes into a womb between 9 to 12 weeks, you can get it checked up. And if the baby is thalassemia major, the doctor, irrespective of your caste, religion, nationality, requests you to abort. So that these babies do not suffer because of our ignorance. They don't have to feel the pain because of our ignorance on our people when they have not told what to do and what is right for them to do. So doctor has to counsel them. So what needs to be done is, prevention is better than cure. And when we talk about prevention, okay, we will prevent in 2023. We all as Indians should pledge that by 2030, we should see the country to be thalassemia free. And it's not difficult. It's all you need to propagate the right message. The way we know about COVID, even the smallest kid who has been born in this country in 2021 knows about COVID. How does that? It's by awareness. It's our responsibility of every citizen to propagate this message across oceans, across hills, across mountains, that no thalassemic should be born under our watch. Dear friends, I would request you to please do, first thing is to say and write a status, Thalassemia World, into your Facebook. Because that's what you believe in. Second comes people who have been born. What does happen to them? What do? They didn't have the resources. What do? So with every ml of blood, 1 milligram of iron goes inside. So 250 ml of blood each time goes, 250 mg of iron goes inside. When the iron goes inside, it gets deposited in the heart, it gets deposited in the liver, and that's a cause of your demise, that's a cause of your death, that's a cause of your suffering. So you need to keep the hemoglobin between 9 to 11. Simplest thing, check for viral status, keep the hemoglobin between 9 to 11, give the iron chelation. Give the iron chelation means give those medication which can take out the iron from the body, from the liver, from the heart, and get it passed through the urine so that they don't get deposit on your liver and your heart. So your heart and liver remains sound. Then there are newer drugs which are coming up. There's a new drug called thalidomide. So Dr. Pallavi, our own Dr. Pallavi, has published a paper saying if thalidomide has been given for thalassemic babies, 63% people can be transfusion independent. New drug called luspatercept has come up, which is an injection which is given every 3 weeks and helps you in reducing the blood transfusion for these patients. All these modalities are 1/10 the cost of what they have to incur in the West once the people come from Middle East and CIS countries and Africa to India as a destination. And that too in India, FMRI or Fortis Memorial Research Institute under the leadership of Dr. Vikas Dua, because he is the one who is spearheading our thalassemia program for the group. He has got a very simple mission. No baby should be thalassemia should be born, and no thalassemic baby should get devoid of a bone marrow transplant. Whichever way, whatever way, we'll find the money. We have to pull in the money, we'll pull in the money. But every thalassemic should get a bone marrow transplant, and that's what he believes in. Because thalassemia The only way to cure thalassemia is by bone marrow transplant. So these medications helps you to reduce the blood transfusion. Thalidomide is an oral pill. You take it every day. Some people have constipation, some people will have difficulty in sleeping, but these medications are safe. After that comes the injection, luspatercept, which is available in India. So people listening to us in Middle East now has got one more injection which is available, which can help you in reducing the blood transfusion. The elderly, young people, 25, 30 years old, who are thalassemics, who are waiting for a miracle to happen. And that's a miracle which has happened. So I would urge everybody to talk about newer treatment modalities being available in India. And then comes the bone marrow transplant, which I would say humbly my colleague, my brother, a visionary, Dr. Vikas Dua will tell us about bone marrow transplant in thalassemia, because working so hard for past 10 years, he has been able to establish the state-of-the-art thalassemia center at FMRI. Not for only Indian patients, but people across the world who seeks his help to get cured. So I think drug we have heard about prevention. Now it's time to hear from the horse's mouth about the revolutionary techniques of sibling transplant or half-matched transplant from Dr. Vikas Dua, director and visionary for thalassemia and sickle cell in the world. Dr. Vikas Dua.
Everybody understands Hindi? So should we talk in Hindi? Okay. See, सबसे important चीज क्या है? आज क्या है? आज 8 मई है. आज वर्ल्ड थैलेसीमिया डे है. वर्ल्ड थैलेसीमिया डे का मतलब है कि पूरी दुनिया में हम अवेयरनेस पैदा करते हैं कि थैलेसीमिया नामक बीमारी को कैसे जड़ से खत्म कर सके. थैलेसीमिया बीमारी डॉक्टर भार्गव ने आपको बताया होगा, हर महीने ब्लड चढ़ता है. 6 महीने की उम्र से बच्चे को ब्लड चढ़ता है, और या तो इनको ब्लड चढ़ाते रहें या बोन मैरो ट्रांसप्लांट करके ठीक करें. अब बोन मैरो ट्रांसप्लांट आप सब लोग जानते हैं कि भाई बहन होता है तो बेस्ट डोनर होता है, भाई बहन नहीं होता तो अनरिलेटेड डोनर सर्च करते हैं रजिस्ट्रीज में से. कई बार मिल जाता है, कई बार नहीं मिलता. नहीं तो हमारे सेंटर में आप सब ने, बहुतों ने हाफ मैच ट्रांसप्लांट बच्चों के कराए होंगे और वो ठीक हो गए. तो जितने भी लोग आप में से, मैं कहता हूं, मिडल ईस्ट में काम करते हैं, नियर बाय कंट्रीज में काम करते हैं, पाकिस्तान, नेपाल, मैं नाम किसी वजह से ले रहा हूं, समझिए, पाकिस्तान, नेपाल, बांग्लादेश, श्रीलंका, बर्मा और साउथ ईस्ट कंट्रीज, कंबोडिया. इसके अलावा कुछ थोड़ा बहुत CIS कंट्रीज में, जैसे उज्बेकिस्तान, तुर्कमेनिस्तान. इसके अलावा इराक, सबसे ज्यादा इराक. इराक के अलावा और नेबरिंग कंट्रीज जैसे बहरीन, जैसे ओमान. ये जो मिडिल ईस्ट की कंट्रीज हैं और हमारे देश के पास की कंट्रीज हैं, यहां पर थैलेसीमिया बहुत है. और थैलेसीमिया एक कम्युनिटी ड्रिवन बीमारी है. कम्युनिटी ड्रिवन बीमारी का मतलब है कि एक मरीज को बीमार होता है, वो ठीक होता है, तो वो और लोगों को बताता है अपने समाज में, क्योंकि वो ज्यादातर एक कम्युनिटी में मिलते हैं, एक ब्लड ट्रांसफ्यूजन सेंटर में मिलते हैं. एग्जाम्पल लूं, बगदाद के अंदर कम से कम नहीं तो 2,500 से 3,000 बच्चे हैं जिनको थैलेसीमिया है. सिर्फ बगदाद की बात करें तो इतने हैं, पूरे इराक में कई हजार. अब यही बच्चे बगदाद में किसी सेंटर पे जाते हैं जहां ब्लड चढ़ता है, और लेट से उस सेंटर का एक मरीज आया आपके पास, आपने ट्रांसप्लांट कराया और वो ठीक हो गया. वहां जाएगा, वो और लोगों को बोलेगा कि आपके बच्चा अभी तक ब्लड चढ़ा रहा है, देखो मैं अपने बच्चे का हिंदुस्तान गया, बोन मैरो ट्रांसप्लांट करा, ठीक हो गया. तो 10 लोगों को मोटिवेट करा उसने. फिर 10 लोगों में से 5 लोग अफोर्ड कर पाए, 5 नहीं अफोर्ड कर पाए, बट उन्होंने जैसे तैसे साल 1.5 साल मेहनत करी, पैसा इकट्ठा करा और इंडिया आ गए. अब ये कैंसर से क्यों फर्क है? कैंसर वाला मरीज आया, बोन मैरो ट्रांसप्लांट करा और अपने घर चला गया. ऐसा नहीं ना, वो ऐसे समाज में है या ऐसी जगह जाता है जहां पर और लोगों को भी कैंसर है. बट थैलेसीमिया वाला मरीज ऐसी जगह जाता है जहां और बच्चों को थैलेसीमिया. सो थैलेसीमिया, अगर एक मरीज ठीक है तो थैलेसीमिया के So he's saying that I should talk in English because there are quite a number of people who are listening to us. The program is going live. So if one thalassemic gets a transplant done, then he will tell to 10 different people, and then out of those 10 different people, quite a number of people will come to us for a bone marrow transplant. And once those 10 or 5 people who comes to us for bone marrow transplant, they get cured, they will tell to 50 different people. Do you get my point? So from one patient, this thing has reached to 50 different people, which doesn't happen to through a cancer patient. And this is a very big problem, not just in India. India is the thalassemia capital of the world. That simply means maximum number of thalassemics are born in India. But around the country, Middle East, this is a problem. So if you people are working in Iraq, Oman, Bahrain, Southeast countries, SAARC nations, then you should start promoting thalassemia as a disease which can be permanently cured with bone marrow transplant. In last couple of months, I would say, we have treated quite a number of patients of thalassemia. Jashmuddin is sitting, he knows. Right now we have 4 or 5 kids from Bangladesh. Rahman is sitting, he knows that there are quite a number of Bangladeshi patients who have traveled to us. And those of you who've been working in Iraq, you people also know it very well that there are patients who have got thalassemia who come to us for a transplant. And if somebody doesn't have a full match donor, then there is always an option of unrelated donor search or doing a half match transplant. Because in our center, we have got 80 to 90% cure rates. We are unrelated in a half match transplant. Jashmuddin knows that we have done more than 10 patients of his from CIS countries who have undergone a half match transplant or an unrelated transplant, and everybody is doing well. Correct? Similarly, you also know it very well that this is one of the center where transplant can be done. Now, not just thalassemia, there is another problem. There is another genetic problem which is like thalassemia, which is seen in Africa, which is called sickle cell anemia. Though today it is not sickle cell day, but I'm really talking about sickle cell because I want you to know that that's another problem which is like thalassemia, but which is prevalent in Africa, and Nigeria is the sickle cell capital of the world, which means maximum number of sickle cell patients are born in Nigeria, and other neighboring countries, there are quite a number of sicklers and they come to India for a transplant. So if I'm not wrong, we have done more than 100 to 120 transplants for sickle cell from Africa and more than 100 transplants for thalassemia just from Iraq. So I hope you understand the fact that this center has got expertise and we've been doing transplants for these kids for a very long time. And just to summarize, I would ask Dr. Arun, who is with us. He also looks after pediatric hematology, oncology and transplant. And he will tell you how we search a donor. He will tell you who is the best donor. If somebody doesn't have a full match donor, how we search from an unrelated registry. And if that is not the case, who among the parents become a donor who is a half match donor. So how to search a full match, how to know who is the best donor from the family means the full match donor. If somebody doesn't have a full match donor, how we search from outside the family. And if somebody doesn't have a donor from outside the family, which means from the registry, who becomes a better donor when it comes to half match transplant.
Thank you, sir. So coming to the transplant, as sir said, the best transplant is full match transplant. So there are only 25% chance that brother sister will be full match in the chance. So in the family, the chances of full match is 25%. So that is the best one transplant, that is match sibling donor transplant. After match sibling in this hierarchy, the next one is the match unrelated donor transplant. For that, we need the high resolution HLA. So sometime you come with the low resolution HLA. For that, it is not possible. For searching the match unrelated donor transplant, we need high resolution HLA. and that HLA we put in the search engine. So that is the Dhatri in the India and NMDP in Germany, DKMS in the Germany and NMDP in the USA. So high resolution HLA typing, blood group of the patient and weight. These are the three requirement, and the diagnosis is obviously the thalassemia, and we will get the result in the 48-hour possibly. But that is luck by chance. Someone can have 100 of donor, 30 donor, 3 donor or no donor. So after if we found the donor, then we start the other process, that is the counseling, and then we have to pay the registry charges, and if the donor is agreed, then we can proceed. So full match, then match unrelated donor, but if there is no result from the full match or there is no match unrelated donor, then the next is half match transplant. Before going to the half match transplant, we need to do one test, that is the DSA, donor specific antibody. So if the donor specific antibody is negative against mother and father, and if sibling is also there, so probably we'll choose father as a donor, or if there is no much difference in the weight of the patient and the donor, then sibling can also be half match donor. So these are the three transplant, and these are the sequence of the transplant. If we are going for the success, the full match transplant around 80 to 90%. In the mud and the half match transplant, the success will be around 70 to 80%. And it also depend upon the age of the patient. As the age go, the patient is older, the chances of complication will be more. So if the ferritin is high, the liver is enlarged, then the chances of success will go down. So on the thalassemia day, we have to create this awareness as soon as possible. After 1 year, we can do the transplant. So as soon as possible, we should proceed for the transplant. So this is in the nutshell about the thalassemia and the method of management of the thalassemia. If you have any question, we are happy to take it. Any question regarding transplant or thalassemia?
Only thalassemia major, very nice. Not thalassemia minor, but every thalassemia major should get a bone marrow transplant. Can we say loudly? All thalassemic major should get a bone marrow transplant. Done. Every thalassemic major. Every thalassemic major needs to get a bone marrow transplant done. Okay? One thing. If I don't have a sibling, so the best outcome for a bone marrow transplant in thalassemia is with brother and sister. Brother and sister who is 10 out of 10 match. Do you require blood group matching in thalassemia? You don't require a blood group matching. What you require is a special kind of a match called HLA matching. What do you require? HLA. So which is the best match? 10 out of 10 match is the best match. Success goes up to 90%. At what age they should get a bone marrow transplant done? Less than 7 years of age. The best age to get a bone marrow transplant, best. That does not mean that the 17 to 15 will not get a transplant done. But the best age, which I want all of you to propagate and spread, is between less than 7 years of age. You can go up to 90 to 92% people surviving. No blood group matching, all you require is an HLA typing. HLA typing can be done from the cheek swab or can be done from the blood. Okay? If it's a 10 by 10 match, perfect. If I don't get a 10 by 10 match, then there are two ways. Then there's two ways. What are the two ways? Either search for a mud, match unrelated donor transplant. That is called registry based. Or you do a half match transplant. Or you do a half match transplant. Is bone marrow transplant surgery? How many people say bone marrow transplant is surgery? Bone marrow transplant is not a surgery. A renowned hospital nearby writes bone marrow transplant surgery. When they don't know that bone marrow transplant is not a surgery, what will they do? So dear all, when you go on a Google, say bone marrow transplant surgery, there you will find a reputed hospital here. It's a laughable thing. We should all laugh. It's not a surgery. It's a transfusion. What happens once the patient gets an HLA typing done? They come to us, they get a blood test done from head to toe, knowing about their heart status, kidney status, liver status, where they give you a blood test. And along with ferritin and other tests, once those tests comes in, they get admitted. What do you do? Take 300 ml of blood from the donor. So like kidney transplant, liver transplant, you don't have to give your organ. You have to give only 300 ml of blood, which gets replenished within 5 minutes. So no danger to donor. There is no danger to donor. Once that is done, patient stays in the isolated room for 25 days. Then the patient goes back home. My humble request to all the people who travel to this place, please come with a packing for 3 to 4 months to stay in and around Fortis, because that's where you give the best. Once you get discharged, then the next phase starts in, where the graft has to settle. So if I have to come to your house, I have to settle in your house. But during that settlement, I can have fight with you. That is called graft versus host disease. 10% people do develop, that can lose motions. People do develop skin rashes. And whatever we do, whichever place we go, there will be always 10% mortality, dear all. And on the cameras and in front of all of you, I'll say, there are always, in every center in the world across, there is a 10% mortality which comes with bone marrow transplant. It's not 100%. So whosoever thinks it's 100%, it's a lie. Which center says it's 100%, transplant is a success, it's a lie. Okay? So remember, the success is 90%, but we have to go on to make these 90% people survive. Till we get gene therapy or something like that, which brings in 100% success. But we have to wait. So on this World Thalassemia Day, when hundreds of you people have gathered, I would request only one thing, which is very dear to my heart. Please spread the right word about thalassemia. Right from prevention to cure, and about bone marrow transplant, so that it does not go into disrepute. People should not judge that it's a lie that to get a bone marrow transplant is a bad thing. Because those people who travels from 6,000, 7,000, 10,000 kilometers, they trust us. They trust you. And the biggest thing is that Almighty has trusted you to serve the people, serve the human beings. We cannot let Him down. We have to face Him one day. So dear all, with this thought, we will come to an end of Thalassemia Day with a commitment, with a promise that in our lifetime, we will see world of thalassemia free. Thank you everybody for coming.